What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today we are yet again working on the 325IS project. I'm super excited about today's modification, so stay tuned. Alright, so here we are back again working on the 325IS. It's been a busy past few weekends. I haven't been able to actually work on the car, so I'm getting really excited because we are really close to getting this thing running and driving down the road. It's been in this spot for so long. But with that being said, I am very excited to install something fun, I would argue. I guess it's like more of a fun mod. So what I have here is the 𝙤𝙬𝙧𝙚 axle spacer kit. Before I get into this, I do want to note that this is not paid, this is not promoted by them, but they have no idea that I exist. So this will be a 100% transparent review and install video on these, but I do think that these are really sweet. Alright, so the reason I think this kit is cool is because a lot of these kits do not come with extended hardware. And this video will probably be on the shorter side, but I do want to start getting you guys some content weekly, so hopefully you enjoy this. Hopefully this video is helpful in case you're interested in these. So let's get right into it. So right here, this is why I'm excited about this kit. $70 for a pair of axle spacers. You get extended hardware, and what makes it even better is that these are grade 12.9 hardware. And what makes it even better on top of that is that it switches from the eTorx to the Allen head, which is super cool and way more convenient, and definitely a little bit better for installing and uninstalling. So you got extended hardware, nice black, new, not old and crusty eTorx. And here we've got our actual axle spacers and a little key tag, which is cool. Got your little 𝙤𝙬𝙧𝙚 swag, pretty cool. Got some slaps there, looks like a E36 1 series, pretty cool. Shout out 𝙤𝙬𝙧 for the swag. So I've never ordered anything from them, but I have heard great things. Here are the axle spacers themselves. They're actually pretty thick, and we'll talk about why you should be using these in a second, but just to unbox and show you, they're pretty nice. So we're gonna talk about these and then we're gonna put them in the car. So the main reason I went ahead and got this kit is because it was 70 bucks. Now factor in shipping and tax, came out to be like $83. But even at that price point, I think it's pretty reasonable for what you're getting. These spacers are super nice, zinc coated. All the information is on their website. Again, you get the proper fitting and upgraded hardware, so they are extended for the spacers. And again, the big thing is that the head changes, super nice and way more convenient if you're swapping out diffs frequently or you're breaking axles a lot, but this should solve any possible issue of breaking axles. So the main reason you go ahead and purchase axle spacers would be when you are lowering your car or you have a good amount of camber on your car. Now, while I don't plan to have excessive camber on this car in the rear, I do think that it will go through a few phases just like my M3 did, and having the axle spacers there as peace of mind is super helpful. And it's just, I mean, it's a cheap enough modification, upgrade, whatever you want to call it, to justify doing it. I just put the 391 in this car, if you guys watched that last video, and the axles are not fully installed yet, so I figured let's buy this kit, install it, and that way we shouldn't ever have to run into that problem. The main reason you need the spacers is because when you lower the car, the geometry of the suspension changes. When you lower the car, there's like unnecessary strain on those axles, and if you can space them out a little bit, that definitely helps with their overall angle, and normally the angle is what breaks those axles. With the welded diff in the car knowingly going to be low, figured let's just do it. So I do not have these on my M3. My M3 has a ton of rear camber, and I've definitely clutch kicked it enough to where I thought the axles would have broken by now, but I guarantee if I drifted that car, those axles would be broken in no time. Now they are M3 axles, so they're a little bit stronger, but even with this car and my application for it, just figured why not. All right, let's go ahead, get under the car and get this stuff installed. So we are now underneath the car, as you can see. Now, if you are curious on how to best go about doing this, I would recommend jacking it up and setting the jack stands on the trailing arms instead of the actual jack points. That way the weight of the car is actually sitting on the rear end, if that makes sense. So you actually have the jack stand on the trailing arm. That way it's not sagging, And when the suspension sags and it's at that steeper angle, it's much harder to access these axle bolts. All right, so right here we have our axle bolts. They're E12s. So just remember to actually purchase, if you do not have them already, some proper E-Torques, because you do not want to strip these. It's not a fun time. I did manage to round off 2 of them coming out. And I've already had these removed, so they're going to be finger tight, but if you need to break these loose and you do not, for whatever reason, have a drive shaft connected to your car, like I currently do not, you can always use your e-brake. Well, it's probably not super great for that. It will work, but if you do not have a welded, like this car does, that would only work on one side. So, as in terms of actually breaking them loose, you might want to, I mean, you can do various things. You could do an impact gun, not super strongly suggested, or you could wedge something against the wheel, I suppose, or try and break them loose if your car is high up enough the ground when it's not on jack stands. Just make sure you got a really good bite on these things, because again, them being E-Torques, they like to slip off. Probably ready to come out. Yep. So yeah. They're the E-Torques. Nobody's favorite. Nobody likes this. I apologize. This camera's having a fucking stroke trying to record this. And then they got that little bracket that comes on them. Just make sure not to forget this when you go ahead and install them again. So what I'm going to do is let the e-brake off and then manually rotate these wheels so I can access the rest of the bolts. Alright, there's that. Now once you get all your axle bolts out, you can go ahead and yank this guy out from where it goes. So we should have enough clearance to actually get these in, but I guess we're gonna find out right now. All right, here's our old E-Torques axle bolt. Again, the E-Torques star-shaped head. Here's the new one. The Allen head on it, you'll notice this bottom one is the new one, and it is actually spaced properly in order to accommodate for the sizing of the spacers. So that's super cool. Cooler, better style head, and actually extended hardware. So perfect, let's get these things installed. So we're gonna go ahead, put these guys in. Not too tricky. Not too tricky at all, actually. They fit on there perfect. Now it's just one extra thing we gotta line up. So I'm gonna get like a pick or something just to line all this up, and then we can go ahead and get the bolts installed. All right, so these guys use an 8mm metric Allen here. There we go. Went ahead and lined that up with a pick. You can use a flathead, whatever you can find that kind of fits in there and lines it up. We got that lined up. Put your ratchet on the end. Just note that their website does tell you to use some red Loctite. I am going to skip out on that. I'm going to go against their suggestion here just because I want to make sure that this disc's super solid before I go ahead and put red Loctite on it. I want this to, you know, if this has to come back out, I don't want to have to deal with Loctite later. And I do not have anything besides red right now, so that's why I'm going to skip that. But they do suggest they use red Loctite, and then this calls for 70 foot-pounds. I'm gonna go ahead and install the rest of these, and I'll get back to you guys when we are ready to torque them down. All right, I'm back, and all of the bolts have been installed. I'm gonna go ahead and use my 3/8 Tecton. It should clear like that if I use an extension. It should get us in the ballpark of where we would like to be. Cool, so we can torque these down using the Tecton. Honestly, at 70 foot-pounds, I doubt these are gonna come out even without using Loctite, but they must have suggested it for a reason. There's number 3, get the fuck out of there. All right, I'm sure you get it by now. I'm gonna go ahead, get the other 3. I'm gonna hit the other side, then we should be all good. All right, as you can see, we are all installed. Both sides here, torqued to spec. And again, as far as installing these, not too challenging at all. But definitely if you're gonna service your differential in any way, if you're gonna remove it, replace bushings here, or an upgraded diff bolt, or even anything drive shaft related, might as well consider picking these up at the same time. because it just makes the install that much easier. But even if everything was put together, I mean, I guess it would be a little bit of a pain with the muffler here. But aside from that, it's really no big deal. All right, so just like that, the axle spacers are installed. Smooth install, always a big fan of that. Not that much can go wrong when installing axle spacers. It's just nice to have a smooth sailing install without having to do anything extra. But again, hopefully that video was somewhat helpful. I'm gonna go ahead and drop a link down below to these axle spacers if you guys are curious on checking them out. And again, to reiterate for however many times I've said it, it's not paid promotion or anything. It's just all honest reviews. So I just think for 70 bucks it can't be beat. So I'll put it down below. You guys check it out. Stay tuned for more content on the 325IS. We are almost done. We're like just at the final bit to get this car running and driving down the road. So super excited about that. If you guys like this video, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, share the video. Anything you do does help my channel grow. So much appreciated. With all of that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.